Welcome to the couch session. I'm Tony.
This is the wise guy here.
And I'm Jay.
Jay, and today's session we're going to have is about church. And what about church? Making deposits, no withdrawals. And the reason we're coming on this topic because a lot of people are struggling right now during these economic times, and they need financial assistance and financial help. And some of us feel the church should be a big part of helping the members in the church who help make the church what it is, who puts their money into the church. So at a certain point in life, I feel, or members of the church feel, that the church should be able to help out. You shouldn't have to go through a hard financial struggle for a long period of time in order to get help or talk to someone to help you get help. What do you think, wise guy, about that?
Hey, like I said, God knows I love the Lord. I love the church, but I think the church has kind of went astray to more or less a business instead of a system for people helping. I've spent a lot of time, at church, and I find it sometimes that the focus is more or less on the people and more on the pastor. And I understand the pastor is the head of the house, the shepherd to the flock, those type of cliches. But the thing is that the need is for people to be reached and for people to feel at home and feel safe in God's house. But now it's turned to more or less a concert, a show. You got folks with this show-off attitude. You got the deacons against the ushers and all kinds of foolishness. And the church is just gone away from what it was made for. It was made for us to all come together and worship. But now, all I see is people flying around with Learjets that don't want to give you a ride in it, and you're the one that paid for it. Or well, maybe 501c3. But anyway, the federal tax dollars have paid for it.
That's true.
I'm just beside myself with church. I tell you, I had an experience at church. I remember I was at church. I won't say the name of this church, but you know who you are. Where I was sent to Haiti. Members helped me get to Haiti because I fell into a financial situation. The pastor found out and came and discussed with me, saying, "You need to be able to carry your own weight. You need to be doing this." But the members helped me. It wasn't like I petitioned anything or asked anything from anyone. Nothing. The money was just there. They said, "Brother, God knows we love what you do with the church, and we just want you to go and represent us." Great. But it wasn't about the head getting what they want out the deal. It was somebody else was being seen, I guess, and showed out. And I don't know if the individual didn't like it or whatever the case may be. But I was addressed with the issue of I need to be able to sort my own way out. But I thought the church was about people helping people. That's the last I remember. Yeah. That's the last of what I've learned coming off the street. I wasn't raised up in the church, so when you come off the street and you're being taught that, you read the word. This is what it indicates. That's what we're here for.
Well, let me say this. That this is the only problem that I'm having with the conversation as of right now, is that it's a broad, sweeping stroke, and we're saying the church. So to me, that implies that it's all churches.
Oh, I'm not saying every church.
Right. But I understand what you're saying now, because there is an underbelly. You know what I mean? When you turn that rock over, when you go into a church, they're going to present themselves much like Facebook. They're going to give you that great look, that clean look. We're all about a positive image. But once you turn that rock over, you do see there is a lot of infighting. There is a lot of confusion, a lot of controversy. And I agree that is the central piece of the problem. My question is how do you go about changing that culture? Because our generation is a generation that necessarily isn't in the church.
Correct.
You understand what I'm saying?
I agree.
So what is it that can be done to make that connection?
I think the more smaller churches, this is just my opinion, are more involved in more community.
The storefronts, yes.
And helping, to me, my opinion, than the bigger churches. Because the bigger churches are more politically inclined with the economy,
Right.
the presidential race.
Right.
I mean, how many people you've seen that's running for governor or president or Congress come to a small front church? They go to the big churches with the larger numbers. So to me, all of it is politics.
And I think that you're getting to a good point, because this is the question that we have now. Our church, I some people think it's big. I don't really think it's big, but probably about 400 active members.
400 active members?
Right.
Well, that's not. I'm talking about churches when
you're talking about a mega church, right?
Yeah.
Right. We're talking right. What you're talking about is mega churches,
Right.
And that was the thing. It's like, do I want to be a number, or do I want my pastor? Do I want to have it? I can call my pastor right now, and we can have a conversation. He calls me. You know what I mean? I consider him to be a friend, not just the shepherd, of the church. So when you talk about those types of churches, it is political, and at the end of the day, I think that parishioners they hide. It's a way to hide. Nobody's going to say, "Hey, Tone, we missed you last Sunday," because it was 2,000 people in here. We didn't know if you were here or not. So I think a lot of people hide in those kinds of situations to be able to be anonymous. But at the end of the day, it's also about political power, because they want to be able to say, "Hey, this senator came to my church and spoke, and we voted in numbers and things like that." They want to be a part of the political machine as well.
Right. But I think also, I feel that it should be a part, especially the mega churches, where when you're making so much money, they should have some type of programs in the church where you helping people pay mortgages. I mean, it's sad that you have to make a fundraiser. You have to go to the church and say, "Hey, we need money for these people to go to school," and then you're looking at the church, but the pastor is living in these lavish homes and have private jets and have 4 and 5 cars, that's living extraordinary. Won't you take some of that money and give back to the people? That's all I'm saying. Why should you live? I don't have a problem with you living a lavish life, but my point is, like the site where this is on, enough is enough. Enough is enough. When is it enough is enough? When you say, "Hey, I done made enough money.
Right.
The church has taken care of me. I'm making $1 million. Let me stop." If you're making $1 million and you got 50,000 members, okay, you can get $1 million, but stop at $1 million.
Right.
That extra money you make, give back to the people. But do they do that? No. They get bigger, better, or they'll take the money, put back into the church. How big of a building do you need? How many cars do you have to have? And then you have members catching a bus, thumbing rides.
And usually those are the ones that are so loyal too.
And then the loyal ones the problem I'm having, it's not about the pastor. The pastor put his shoes on, put his clothes on, just like you. And when you get up in the morning, you have the same financial issues that you had when you left church. When he got up in the morning, he's taking your money that you having financial issues with and living lavishly. I don't have a serious problem with that. I feel there should be a cap. I really do. And when the government was talking about cracking down on pastors, I was with it, because it's ridiculous. Number one, they're nonprofit. A lot of people who don't know, nonprofit means when you have a business that's nonprofit, religion is charity, that means at the end of the fiscal year for them, they have to have a zero balance or be in the negative. So let's just say a church made $50 million in a year. At the end of that year, that $50 million has to be zero, which means it has to goes towards the church, electricity, water. Instead of them giving it back to the congregation, somebody will go and buy a Maserati or go buy a private jet. And I see these guys say, "Hey, I got to travel from one church to another. Use the airlines.
Right.
What you got to buy a private jet?
Or do like I do, drive. Welcome to the real world."
Let me say this too, is that I think that we're also getting to a point about a topic is prosperity preaching. I think there's a lot of pastors who preach prosperity and don't want to touch about hell, damnation, and your soul. So in order for me to be able to preach prosperity, I need to show that I'm prosperous.
But finances is not just being prosperous, not just about money.
Right, and I agree with that. But I'm just saying, I just think that is the logic, the mentality, the thought process for a lot of people is to say, okay, well, if I'm
But,
going to
but why is it like that? But why is it like that?
Well, because
they preach it
because
like
the
that.
shepherd
Right.
puts it out there.
I mean, you can't sit here and say that majority pastors preach, and the first thing they say about being blessed is what? What's the first thing they say about being blessed is what?
Tithing.
No, being blessed, you need to tithe, and if you pay your tithes, you'll be blessed financially. Why is always got to be blessed financially? Why can't be happiness?
Right.
Why can't be love? Why can't be none of that? It's always finances. And then they make you feel bad when you go to church, and then they'll preach on tithes and offerings, and some people take it to heart. And then they'll turn around after the preaching and say, Father, let's pray over these tithes and offerings. And then you'll say, bless those who didn't give. But the sermon you just preached just antagonized those who didn't pay their tithes and offerings.
Right.
So it's a contradiction.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You can't do that to people when people are putting their spiritual faith in your words.
Right.
Pastors carry a lot of
Power, yeah.
power when they speak. A lot of people,
yes.
when the pastors say something, they with it. So we got to be careful.
Well, go ahead.
But I would say that with tithing, giving an offering, is that God is not looking for equal givers. He's looking for equal sacrifice, more or less.
Okay.
I think sometimes we get tied up in trying to be better than always got to match up with the Joneses. It's always a personal battle. But I would say to you folks, if your lights are going to be turned off tomorrow, I would go pay the bill.
Amen to discuss.
Trust me, God will forgive you because one, you're taking care of your family. See, we get on the money thing all the time, but we have to understand that if you have a family, that is the gift from God. That's a gift. Your wife, your children, you have to take care of those things.
Well, the whole key to the thing to me is you can't take care of nobody else unless you're taking care of home. That's the first priority.
Oh, definitely.
A lot of people out there, whether they want to say it or not, they take care of that church. They're not spending time with their family, their kids, their wife, or their husbands, because they're in church 5-6 days out of the week. Child left at home, but sometimes we have to think about it, and sometimes get your priorities straight. But a lot of people think when the pastor speaks, they're looking at it as a reference of, man, if I don't do this, I'm going to be looked upon differently, or God's going to look at me in a different way. No, you do what you have to do to take care of yours. Sometimes we have to use just basic common sense. There's no way possible I'm going to jeopardize my family. If I had a choice, well, you need to pay this to the church, or like you said, I got to pay my mortgage. It ain't even nothing to think about.
Yeah.
It's nothing to think about, because at the end of the day, as we all grew up as, at the end of the day, that church still going to be there, that pastor still going to be there.
Right.
Where you going to be at?
Stand outside of it.
And then when you don't pay, you got to go to the church, and then you're not going to get a straight up meeting. You got to wait, and they got to think about it. Now, this church you done gave, let's say you've been there 15 years. Yeah. You paid your tithes and offerings faithfully. I don't know how much you done paid out, but you done paid out a lot of money. So the last thing you're looking for is, oh no, brother, such and such. We gonna have to see. And see, then I get an attitude.
Right.